and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Martel. Here. Crocker.
Here.
Mortimer.
Here.
Ranieri. Benjamin.
Here.
Dawes.
Here. Agenda approval. Shall I?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Citizen participation. Now, remember that you have 3 minutes, and it will be timed tonight because we got a full house, and we're pretty sure everybody will want a time. So you have 3 minutes. The chief will be timing that. First person up.
We have somebody on our agenda.
Yeah. Who? Let's see. Yes, Rick Hunter. Would you like to come up?
Oh, that's me. I thought it was on the agenda, but, hello everybody, my name is Jim Eagler. I'm with, the Rally Committee. As we all know, the, rally had a rally pass here in Cuba, in Hood Park in March. It was very successful. In conversations with the founder of the rally race, Crawford County has allowed the rally to come back to southern Crawford County. But they really would like to try to find some roads here in the northern part of Crawford County because they really like the turnout we had in Cuba. And, but there's more people live on the roads here in Cuba. So we could use some volunteers, you and myself, to go along with the committee, the rally, to get permission from every homeowner on the rally, because they can't close the roads down unless every person signs off on the rally list. And, but I do have a couple options here I'd like to go out there that wouldn't require there's nobody lives there, you know. I think we'd have a nice little special stage actually in Hood Park. You know, make a little loop around the track and inside of it, and go out the back way. Wouldn't park spectators there. We'd have the car show kind of in town. But there is a small rally on July 11th. Now, there's another thing. I don't know if Cuba owns the electrical right-of-ways or not, but if you start off on Quidnor Road, which is right there in front of Jim's Motors, and go down like the service road, and make that sharp turn, well, there's a highline cut right through the woods there that people have been forward driving on. And that would turn it up onto Maple Shade, which you make a left and you go on McPherson. And that would be like a 4-mile loop, which would be adequate. But it would require permission from the Highline and some maintenance on that Highline route. You know, another idea, which is kind of far-fetched, but it might work, is in the industrial park from across from high school. You know, you could make a loop through there, do a couple parking lots up through the back to the gravel, come back around, and then you get a couple mile loop there. That might be good because you wouldn't have to require any people. You just have to maybe get some business to agree to it. But we're really kind of running out of time for the July 11th race. But like I said, I really could use some volunteers to help the rally get permission from the landowner. I mean, I know a few people, but I don't know very many.
Would you like to give out your phone number, Jim, so if
Yes.
anybody here lives on a county road, that they reach out to you?
Yes, if you know of any road that would be usable, got a whole lot of people, my phone number is 636-288-1803. My name's Jim Eagler, E-A-L-E-R. And I mean, like you proved already with the Rally Pass, there's a great demand for this on Thursday evening. And I believe in a couple years, we could really turn this into something.
Are you guys looking to come back to us this coming March?
Yes.
next year?
But what we gotta do, before we get the big rally, we gotta approve these roads on the little rally. The little one in July is only got about 10 or 12 cars. This is a small regional, and this is one day. But to get the big rally here, to race on roads nearby, well, we need to find some roads up on this side of the county. We're also looking out on Christie Mine Road, and that part of town, neck of the woods, and that's a very sparsely populated area also.
Have you also talked to the county commissioners yet?
I was there this morning.
Okay.
They're concerned about the timeline on July the 11th. They really want the rally to come back, and they're really glad that I was able to open up the historic stages that we've been doing, and with the cattle jump crossing. Oh gosh, so good. And this is the closest rally they've ever had. The top 4 positions were within 4.5 seconds of each other. And it wasn't until the last stage that Travis Pastrana went from 3rd to 1st, and he won.
For any of you guys that haven't been to that rally, this is our first year hosting the March event here in Cuba. And we had, the turnout was unbelievable. I couldn't tell you how many people were there. We literally parked cars until late at night. And it went into, I think we had 4 or 5 food trucks set up for that Friday event. And I think most of them sold out. If not, went into the next day's food and had to start cooking again. So we had a fantastic turnout for that. We look forward to having you back. And if anybody can support Jim and the 100 Mile Rally, please reach out to him. It was a good event. We'd love to have it back here. Anybody else got anything for Jim? Any questions?
Does it have to be July 11th? Because wouldn't that cut in with the fair?
Well, that could be. I don't know when the fair is. The July 11th is the day they have it, and they're supposed to be at Merrimack Music Theater on that day. And it's like they go and look at the roads about noon, and they start racing about 6, and it goes into the evening. It's just a one-day shot. Right.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else next?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. For the record, my name is Dan Edson. I live at 505 Tidwell Drive, here in Cuba. For 12 years, my wife and I have been Mr. and Mrs. Claus for many organizations in and around Cuba. We've been vetted by many schools in the surrounding area, in fact, being asked to return year after year. We've never had to endure allegations of misconduct or inappropriateness around children, having well over 10,000 encounters over the years. It wasn't until certain people decided to cast shade in an attempt to blemish my reputation that these allegations surfaced. In spite of never being accused, investigated, or having credible evidence produced to support it, these vicious rumors still float today. I've watched many social media posts outright accusing me of being a pedophile. In fact, one mother going on to exclaim, she, and I quote, looks in disgust when she sees us attending the Shop with a Cop function here in Cuba, end quote. I want you to think about that for a second. Cuba PD, Steelville PD, and Owensville PD all feel safe with me being in contact with children. I don't know how I could prove my innocence any better. I generally consider comments like this to be a product of political assassination attempts, or I haven't seen these until I started running for alderman. And it's no coincidence that allegations of this magnitude that are meant to do the most harm to a man's reputation were made. But honestly, the last place I thought I would have to endure these were from the city government. I'm aware of an executive session called by then Mayor Kevin Copeland. I was made aware by a person who was in attendance and left the discussion when he realized the subject matter of this executive session didn't fit the requirements of such a meeting. I was not in negotiations for land. I was not an employee or a volunteer of the city, and I was not in current litigation with Cuba. So I'm not quite sure how a discussion alleging inappropriateness at the city pool was going to play out. Nonetheless, advisors of local government entities have assured me that it was an illegal meeting, not subject to the restrictions of executive session. I'm a benevolent man. I have donated my time and use of equipment to the city in an effort to make functions fun. As I've done this in the past, I wanted to extend that same courtesy to the current Parks and Rec Board at their last meeting. They seemed to appreciate the gesture and even took my contact information for possible future events. As I was leaving this desk, Karen Groom said, and I quote, "Of course he wants to help with the pool, around all the kids," end quote. I've had enough of it. We are now sitting at the point where the bear you have posed has woke up. I will no longer stand for these accusations to be made without appropriate response. I require a written apology to be read in open session at the next city council meeting from each of the 4 city representatives I feel is culpable in this situation. Kevin Copley, who called the executive session in the first place. Lady Garbo, who as the city clerk should have known what was appropriate subject matter to be discussed at an executive session, but said nothing. Karen Groom, for being the person who actually said what she said at a sanctioned city meeting. And Karina Rice, who heard, Karina Rice, who heard what was said and felt it funny enough to express mirth. Only after I receive these apologies can we move forward without the city being involved in litigation. Once received, I will consider these actions by the city representatives as dealt with, understanding it should be a warning against any further allegations made without probable cause and proper investigation. Thank you. I look forward to the next city council meeting.
Next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Or good evening, I should say. I'm going to kind of just state for what Dan stated. The allegations stem from the night of the pool meeting for the teen night. I was there first-handed. I watched the whole thing transpire, and a very small segment of what happened has been relayed to be the truth of that evening. What actually happened that evening is, because things have fell on deaf ears, per se, reports of pool staff not doing their job appropriately through Red Cross and state statutes and standards of lifeguarding licensures, is that they were on stand with a microphone dancing, having their phone Apple iWatch, not watching the waters, and it was teen night with multiple children there. So what happened was, Dan took a picture or video, said, "I'm going to send this to council for it to be documented this is happening," because it had been reported numerous times to City Hall and to the pool manager at the time. That is it, nothing more. People took that instance and that instance alone and turned it into something that never happened. Something that, with any male sitting here, would ruin their life in a small town or even a large town. This has been going on for half a year with these false allegations. From my understanding, he's never been under investigation. He's also never received an apology from the city or from the people spreading the lies and gossip. You need to put yourself in Dan's positions, being men, or having husbands, or sons, nephews, fathers. What would you do if people, because they didn't like you, and you were running for an office, or just didn't like you in general, spread doubt and shame of the false allegation and called you a pedophile? That would ruin you in this town. That is not something that can be perpetuated and ever stand for. That is something that should never happen to anybody, whether you like them or not. And it also takes away from real victims that go through those situations. So when they do report those kinds of actions happening, that also falls in deaf ears, and you're not going to be believed. Because you're taking the credibility away from two different kinds of scenarios, real ones and false ones. At no time did Dan ever do that. Ever do that. We're sitting right there. If he did, I would have took action against Dan. At no time did anybody stand up and say this is wrong, except Jeff. You did, Jeff, and Nancy. You publicly went out and said this was wrong, it never happened. We can't stand for this. It has to stop because this is continuously going on. It also happened from this bench at the last Park and Rec meeting. Those things cannot be happening any longer. We cannot appoint people, elect people that lie about one another and do things that hurt other good citizens. And whether you like someone or not, it doesn't matter. Mayor, you're going to be appointing people tonight to your Park and Rec board. We need people who care, who gets out there and volunteer their time and makes a difference. Our board was abolished, and I know that we've had numerous conversations with several people here, and there's new people here as well, that we're going to request that our people who were abolished be reappointed back to the board. We had a good working board, we helped in the community, and at no time should citizens be able to hold other citizens hostage from giving their civic duty and volunteering because they don't like other people. At any time, Dan and myself have never said, or anybody from my board that was abolished have ever said that we wouldn't work along with other people. I think it's about time that we all get along and we start bettering the community. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So, my name's Amy, just so that you guys all know. So I would suggest putting Dan and Cindy back on that Parks Board. I don't know how many seats are up for, that's available or whatever. But just to be aware, the new Parks Board president, there were some things that were said at the original meeting that she would not serve on the board with Dan or Cindy. Could not give a reason why she would not serve on the board with Cindy. She sat there and she lied about it, said that she had not told anybody that she wouldn't do so. When she got finally called out on it, she finally admitted that she did say that. After the meeting, she approached me and said some very inappropriate things to me, and basically come at me for calling her out at the meeting. If you guys can't be straightforward with people and tell them one thing and mean the same thing, why are we having them represent our Parks and Recreation? I just don't understand it. So I would strongly suggest that you appoint Dan and Cindy back, just because they speak up for our community.
Anybody else? Okay. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of April 21st, 2026. All those in favor? Approval of that executive session meeting minutes of April 21st, 2026.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bills to be paid.
Motion to pay.
A motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion of the food trucks in the city limits. We're going to start this with Joyce.
Okay, I called the restaurants in Cuba and asked them how they felt. There were a few that said that they did think it took a little bit of money away from them, but none of them wanted to complain about the food trucks. I did not call the fast food places, but I called East Office, Frisco's, IHOP, Home Deck, Rich's Famous Burgers, Riviera Maya. I tried to call Little House, but they said they would have their corporate call me back, and they didn't. And I could never get a hold of Shelley's on the phone. But they all said that everybody's trying to make a living, and they didn't really have a problem.
We ran an informal poll. As you know, I have a mayor page, so I ran an informal poll, and we had where you could only answer yes or no, and then made the thing, if you did make a comment, it was only a a suggestion as to how you would improve it or how you would change things around. We had 526 yeses and 7 nos. So with that said, the only thing that I feel like we need to address, and it will be the use of the food trucks in the public, in other words, in like Hood Park or any other parks. We need, since that is a public park and it's not a private piece of property, we need some kind of guidelines concerning the use of any of the things. And we're gonna jump on that pretty quick too. I've reached out to both the committee members for the park, also reached out to one of the park members. We've also reached out to several of the food truck vendors here. We also reached out to the demolition derby people. So we've got a group of people, both the football, the Crawford County Youth Football Program and the soccer programs. And we're gonna get together and kind of brainstorm the guidelines that would be beneficial to the city as well as all the people that normally use the park. And we'll try to get those out quick because we know we got events coming out in summer quick.
We got one this weekend.
This Saturday.
Right. That's a private event, that's a controlled event, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How many food trucks do you have coming out there?
Six.
Have they all got business license in the
Yes.
city?
Yes.
Have they all got a certificate with your name on it for your event that says that they are insured for your event?
That's what I know.
Since it's a private event, a for-profit in the public park, it's just like somebody showing up at your house. They have to have an insurance certificate that's got your business on it. Based on my research with like Kansas City and St. Louis, the places that have. I'm sorry?
I do have them asking about insurance, but I didn't know about the other part.
Well, go ahead.
It's easy for us to get them. We
Yeah.
just go to our insurance agent.
I was about to say the same thing. Usually you just call your insurance company and say, hey, we're gonna be doing this event, they give it to you. As long as you've got your insurance in place and everything, if the council is okay with you guys doing it, since you've got your insurance, it'll have your name, your thing, you're covered. Where are you gonna set up your trucks at?
Behind the bleachers.
The ground behind the bleachers,
Okay.
because we put them onto the concrete last year.
No grass, right?
Well, a little bit.
It is gonna be on the grass.
I'm sorry?
It will be on the grass, because it'll be right behind the bleachers, because we put them on the pavement last time.
Our problem is I think we have an ordinance that says you cannot park on the grass in the parks.
That's where they set the food trucks up in the fair.
I know.
Just so that's.
I know. So, but if the council is okay with that, since we're kind of changing things all because of an event, something that happened this past weekend, we just need to be safer in what we do and where we go and not everybody's aware of the circumstances, but we had a situation this weekend. We just don't want that to happen again. We need to control where these vehicles are going.
The Derby people, they rented the park,
Okay,
and in that agreement, they had to put it back the way they found it.
okay.
These guys work tirelessly down there
They
adding
will
to
fix
that park.
any right
So I
away
have
they
no
have.
problem letting them do it that way, because I know that Terry and his group will put it back the way they found it.
When's your event?
Saturday.
This Saturday. So let's do this after, if everybody's in agreement on the council, because we're just up for discussion, we're not voting on anything. After your event, we will start working on the guidelines. I've already talked to everybody, both of these guys that are on the committee are done, and we will start from that day forward until we get guidelines in place. We can't have food trucks in a public park because we don't have everything set up like we should have. So,
Last year, last May, it was muddy. We parked the trucks on the path. The people stood in water and mud to get something to eat. I mean, we didn't park in the grass. Same way in October, we parked on the path. Everybody was good with that. It was dry that day, of course, but if there is an issue, we already bought seed and fertilizer to take care of that. If we have to put dirt back down, that's fine too. We don't mind doing that. But, you know, like Jeff said, it'll be the way we found it when we leave there Sunday afternoon. Unless the weather is inclement where we can't do it, then we'll come back later and fix it.
Jerry, you never had an issue with Terry not leaving it?
No. What side are the food trucks on?
They'll be on both sides of the track on the path.
So they're gonna be on the blue side.
They're gonna be west, both east and west, yes. Okay.
So will this affect then soccer and football and everyone who parks in the, like, because as a parent, we always park in the grass.
Well, that's the thing, we just gotta look at, the public parking in the grass, we've done that all along. I'm talking about the people that are coming with these heavy pieces of equipment, like your food trucks, your, RVs and all that kind of stuff, because they're, I'm sorry?
You guys want to go outside?
So we're just trying to control the process as far as damage to our facilities and stuff like that. But really, we're just putting together the guidelines to cover the fact that we have food trucks in public park. And right now, there's no problem with that being on private property, but if we're gonna do it in the public parks, then we need to have some guidelines, just like every other city does.
So, do we need a motion to allow it this weekend?
We're just up for discussion, so as long as everybody does not have a problem here, I think we'll just leave it like it is.
It just should already be scheduled.
Through the weekend, because we had already agreed to your event.
Okay, thank you.
Emily, is that okay? Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Emily.
Any questions for anybody? Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Last year, they did a good job of not parking on the grass, other than maybe half of one field for the cars.
Right.
So they kept 95% of the people off the grass, which is very much appreciated. And I'd like to see that again.
Thank you for having your event, Okay, if that's addressed, we will go on to the next. Did that answer, was that susceptible to business owner at the bakery, if you were here?
I'm here,
Okay.
but you didn't properly address the concern. So, when I presented a couple of weeks ago, I was not specifically attacking food trucks, and that has all been, that's been all that it has been, is that I've attacked food trucks.
I asked you, does that mean you do not want food trucks in the city, and you said yes.
Okay, so when I handed you that ordinance, it specifically said, absent an event, meaning that any event, city sanctioned, and I even pointed that out, that was the caveat. I had no problem with it. Rallies, those things are perfect because they bring people into the city, and my point, and I began with it, which was completely glossed over and left out, not only to the public information, but it was left out of the newspaper, was that we don't have a restaurant eatery problem. We have a numbers problem. We don't have the people in this town to support the level of eateries that we have. And you add food trucks in the middle of the week, and we're all struggling already, and it adds to that problem.
Well, see, I think we did address that. I'm not disputing what you're saying, that's what you felt, but we went and talked to, Joyce did, I stayed out of it to be neutral, that's why we have committees and we have volunteers, and she went to 8 restaurants and reached out to other ones, that's not including the fast food, because most corporates can care less. They're gonna do their model of business no matter what.
No, I understand that.
Okay, and all of them said that it's not the case. So.
That's not what they said. What Joyce said was that they didn't want to complain
They said,
about the food truck.
they said they didn't believe it was a big enough problem to
Right.
complain
To
about.
eliminate them.
Okay, so you don't have to take my word for it, but I did get a phone call from one of them, I'm not gonna say who, right afterwards, who said, this is what I said to them, because he already knew that nothing was gonna get done about it. You asked me also to find out what other cities had done, and I did that research, and didn't want to hear that today, right?
You have the time right now, I gave you citizen participation time as well.
Okay,
We're still open.
so besides,
Yeah, we're still open. You still have the floor.
besides the city of Owensville having an ordinance that says exactly that events are fine as
Can you
long
come up so we
as
can?
the city sanctioned event.
Sorry.
Pacific also recently, as early as 2025, they did a restriction. They didn't say no food trucks, but they have greatly restricted the parameters around them. And that's basically all the other information I found was if they didn't do what Owensville did, they did a bigger restriction on what was allowed in their city. I'm not asking for you to eliminate food trucks. I own one. I would never ask you to eliminate those. I'm asking for some parameters around the problem that we have, which is we don't have the people in this town to support the number of eateries that we have.
Let me make a comment. I don't want to sound like I'm sticking up food trucks or anything, but I always look at where's a loophole? Where can I get around this, whatever problem might be? And I work in Owensville, okay? And no, there's no food trucks here. You're right. And I got to look at that and I thought to myself, my property borders the city limits. On the other side is the county. Set up food trucks right there. They're not the city limits. So you could actually establish food trucks all the way around the city, outside the city limits, and it would be back to square one again, because they're there, and we can't, as a city, we can't regulate them because they're just outside the city limits. So that's what I'm saying. If we did pass it, what's stopping them from just moving and getting permission from a property owner just outside the city limits?
So, again, I'm not saying eliminate it altogether. I'm saying find some reasonable parameters that doesn't destroy your established businesses.
What do you suggest?
Mileage, feet restrictions, like several of these cities, even the city of Columbia has a 300-foot restriction. Food trucks cannot operate within 300 feet of an established restaurant. Others have gone to 100 feet restrictions.
Is there a food truck that operates within 300 feet of your restaurant?
Not right now.
Has there ever been a food truck?
There was
operating?
one that called me and asked me to set up on my parking lot, yeah. That gave me a little bit of concern.
Well, I've always been kind of under the rule that if there's private property, a person, unless they hinge on somebody else's ability to sell their property or do whatever, if they allow somebody to set up on their private property, I don't see a problem with that. Now, if you had the option to allow a food truck to set up on your property, but you opted not to, other people do, and they allow them to set up. You wouldn't want us to restrict your private property, right?
I guess if I'm thinking of the city as a whole, I would have to consider, am I hurting, which, by the way, it was also brought up in several comments that I own a food truck and I must be a hypocrite because I've taken my food truck out. Actually, I stopped doing that after a year and a half. I realized what I was doing, and I don't want it done to me, which is why I don't do it to other cities now. Outside of an event, I do not go set up. Events, great. They bring people in, we have bodies present, they're there for that reason. It helps everybody when those events are happening. But on a day-to-day basis, it does not help, it hurts us. That's my only point, that's all I'm trying to say, is we got a problem, it's a numbers problem. I'm not attacking any one business, I'm saying we've got to figure out a parameter that's reasonable for everybody to be able to operate.
I just feel like we've done our research and overwhelmingly the people want the food trucks in the town.
Yeah, but you presented it as though they were going out permanently forever, never to be seen again. And that, I don't think that was a proper representation. I think if you had said with events in there, they would have understood that it was an event allowed situation.
As long as they are on private property, we have no means to really control. It is considered government overreach for us to do that, to control businesses in this town, period.
It's, well, okay.
No, it is very heavy-handed government overreach for us, and we can't control the market. Now, we can try and do things as a town to try and draw more people in and to bring in tourism and to try and hold events. like you said. But we have no business in trying to control the businesses that are, as long as they pay for a business license and they pay their taxes and they are on private property, we have no just cause, period.
So if somebody's rabid dog is running around on their private property.
That's a whole lot different.
That causes physical harm.
Okay, well, he's saying that he doesn't have, you guys don't have the authority to run a city, and you do have the authority to run a city.
We have the authority to allow people to conduct business in the city, and they apply for the processes that we have in place, which is you apply for a business license to operate your business. And then we allow them, if they work a deal out with another private person, as long as we don't have, like Russ said, we really don't need, if we change things to appease everybody that wants their business in a different way or whatever, that's basically how you have to look at it. Tomorrow, we could affect your business.
You could.
And we don't want to start doing it. You set a precedence when you do things, and we don't want to do that. Just like he said, no one's doing it. They set a precedence, and they did that to stop the food trucks, based on what he just said, from operating inside the city. They literally can cross the line and do the same thing, and you change nothing. You just created a government, like you said, overreach, and it really accomplished nothing.
Okay, I mean, you guys asked me to bring this information to you, I brought it to you. There are restrictions that you could put in place, you don't wanna do that, that's up to you.
Well, I asked you for a suggestion, and then I said, has anybody set up within 300 feet of your restaurant? They're obviously not affecting your business.
They
right?
will, eventually. Who's to say that they won't?
So then if we enact the 300 foot, it's not gonna matter. Is that what you just said for us to consider a 300 foot. If I set a parameter where, or we set a parameter where a food truck's not within 300 feet of you, what did that solve?
Setting up 301 feet. They usually set up at Mazes, the Hawker Oil gas plus parking lot. Where else?
You got the hibachi that doesn't pretty.
Yeah, that's an established.
Right.
One lady sets up inside the industrial park a couple days a week. And no restaurants closed.
Okay. Sure.
I gave the example, I had a business, an RV repair business. I built a big 40 by 60 shop, and I stayed pretty busy, but I was nowhere near as busy as the businesses that had mobiles that were going into Bass River and to Montauk and all those places, because they drive in and be there for 8 hours with people. Can you do this for me? Do this for me? I got smart. I went and got me a truck, and I built me a mobile business and did extremely well. I joined the crowd instead of going against it. Did it hurt my in the shop business? No, because I presented it totally different. And I'm not saying that you have to reenact your mobile business, but it might be a suggestion that, hey, if you can get set up in another parking lot and put another person in the truck and you run your business, it might work. I don't know.
Quick. Sell food at both locations.
But that's what I did. I mean, but I don't think regulating, I get it, the brick and mortar stores, they're just as valuable, but so are the people that pay the taxes out of the small units as well.
Everybody's valuable, I'm not saying that they aren't. I have, again, no problem with food trucks, that's not the issue.
Well, when I'm the type of person that if you, this whole council probably will be, that if you come and you say, I've got a problem, we will take your suggestion on fixing it. The only suggestion I've heard so far is establish a 300-foot perimeter. I don't think that solves the thing. Personally, I don't know if anybody else does, but I don't think that 300-foot perimeter.
It would be the same scenario.
Did you
set
have
up on the
anything
city
else?
limits. If you set a 300
Did you
foot
have
perimeter,
anything,
set up
any other
305.
recommendations?
No, you guys had just asked if any other cities had done anything like this, and those were the ones that had come up on others, that they had restrictions, or the city City Pacific specifically did all 3 restrictions. So
got a feeling that,
But it sounds like you guys made your minds up, so.
I got a feeling that when McBride gets his home built out here, people from Pacific will be moving out here to get away from that type of government.
Oh, I bet they won't.
They probably will.
Well, we hope they do, because equals bring peoples, and that's what we need.
I absolutely hope that McBride homes booms. I hope that we have so many bodies in the city, we don't know what to do with. We're just not there, and we won't be there for probably another 5 years, if we're lucky that McBride homes goes out. So,
I'm sorry, we
we
didn't.
gotta
make
figure
sure
out what to
we
do
want-
till then, I guess.
Citizen participation is over.
Mr. Bear, the lady, when she began speaking, mentioned an ordinance in Owensville, but I didn't hear what that ordinance was. May she tell us, please?
Sure.
It was presented at the last meeting. Do you guys still have copies? Cause I don't.
Yeah,
I got a copy of them, but I don't have it with me.
I have mine in my truck, Jackie, so I'll give it to you.
And you can go to the city of Owensville, they got it on their,
Okay.
their ordinances page.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I have 3 seconds of your time? I promise to be quick. I just want to,
We're past citizen participation now.
this is in relation to what she was saying.
Okay, go ahead.
With food trucks. There's a House bill in Missouri right now that's going to supersede a lot of the things that Owensville has in place. I don't know the specific number. I read it in its entirety. There is a paragraph that says the cities don't have the right to eliminate food trucks. If that passes and anything is done beforehand, it may create a conundrum that you'll have to readdress at some point. That's all I want
Was
to
this
say.
a House bill or a Senate bill?
It's a House bill.
House bill?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Discussion and approval of the park tax on August 4, 2026 ballot. There was a bill 1791, special ordinance number 667, that was put in place. It expires, let's see. It was a 10-year, it started in 2017 and will expire in 2027. We have to get this on the ballot. It actually should have been put on the ballot in April and was not. So I found out when I came on board that we had till, what is it, May 23rd, 26th? We have till May 26th to get the ordinance approved, get it through legal, and get it to redo this park tax by, to get it to the county by May 26th. Otherwise, it will not be able to hit the ballot, the August ballot. If it doesn't hit the August ballot, then it has to go to the November ballot. If it goes to the November ballot, we will be without the park tax for a year.
So if it doesn't pass in August, if we decide to put it on, then we have to wait a year. Because this is the one tax that does have a year turnaround. But if it goes on the November ballot and it passes, then it takes 6 months from that time for us to start collecting the tax. So we would be without for a little while. Need to do that calendar math in my head, but we would be without for a little while.
So I am not asking to change the ordinance at all because we've been used to living with a 0.25% put on the sales tax. We've lived with it for 10 years. The best thing about it is everybody that's traveling the highway and buying something in town that's paying taxes is helping us maintain our parks, provide our equipment, keep things where we can have events like we've had this year and what we're about to have this weekend. The great thing is everybody's helping us pay for that buys something in the city of Cuba. If we lose this park tax, we still have to provide those same services, but guess what? The 3,182 people that are in this town will be footing that bill by themselves. We no longer will have the help of anybody else through that quarter cent tax that we collect on our sales tax. So I'm hoping that this passes our ballot and it gets on the ballot and passes in August. If not, it's going to affect the abilities to us to maintain our park and provide the services that we do in our parks. So.
this chair.
Thanks.
You don't want
There's no room.
it? You look like your legs are hurting.
I'm good.
Okay.
Throw it out for you.
Thank you.
Take it down.
You're welcome.
Thank you for trying. So, we're proposing today to put it back on. I do not want to try to do the no sunshine. I just want to propose it just like it was in hopes that in 10 years, our city's in a lot better financial situation and we may not have to redo it again in 10 years. We're going to try to be better stewards with our money, but the most part is we need this money to be approved. We've learned to live with it for the last 10 years, and I would like to see it continue. Any discussion? Motion?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion on that?
The only discussion I have is just to kind of make things simple for the people who may be watching on TV, that this is not an increase in tax. This is just extending, the 10 year that passed is expiring, and we're asking for another 10 years. So it's not an increase in taxes, it's just continuing what is already there.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm asking for, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hudson? Yes. Rucker?
Yes.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Renieri?
Yes.
Roseman?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Motion passes. We will get to work to try to get this in the county's hand by the 26th of May. Next is the hiring of a public works supervisor. We had one, and that has to be from within. We had one application, that is Michael Montgomery. You should all have a copy of his application and resume in front of you. Mike's got a bevy of experience within our public works system. He's been in, I think, 3 work centers now, so far, 4 work centers. I think he'll be a good fit for it, but it's totally you as
Motion.
motion. So, up for discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Scott? Roseman?
Yes.
Renieri?
Yes.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Rucker?
Yes.
Hudson? Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, the electric department, hiring a journeyman apprentice position. That has been tabled pending interviews.
Do we have to have a motion to table here?
No. Table's all met. Next one is natural gas department, hiring of a natural gas laborer technician. We had one specific for natural gas, and then we had another one late that come in after the cutoff. That person is willing to, that he's also interested in the water works, so we moved that to the water works since he didn't meet the timeline. And we had one person come up, and his name is Tony Hudson.
I'll make a motion that we hire.
Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I made a motion to hire him.
Oh, okay.
And we have a second from Russ? Okay, roll call. Any discussion?
Hudson? Yes. Crocker?
Yes.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Renieri?
Yes.
Roseman?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Animal Control Police Committee, hiring of the animal care attendant. Who's our committee members and
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know I was on that part of it. Animal care attendant, under an emergency hires, you know, we've got, like 10 cats and a couple dogs over there, and we have one animal care attendant, working. We did pull a name, from previous applications, and I would like to present, her name, Aniston Hyatt. She goes by Anna, A-N-A, who can start working tomorrow to help take care of these animals in a part-time basis.
Motion to hire.
Second.
discussion?
This is just a part-time
And
position.
that, how much was that hourly?
I think it's the $15 an hour.
Okay.
HYAT.
HIAPP.
Roll call vote on that?
Best,
Yes.
Brickman,
Yes.
Renieri,
Yes.
Mortimer,
Yes.
Cracker,
Yes.
Hartzell.
Yes.
Discuss and advertise an animal control officer?
So, with the hiring of the ACA, the hours over at the shelter are still closed for appointment only. So that's just to take care of it. We have this one going. I don't think that, it almost could under emergency hire, but we don't have anybody to present, but I'd like to get an ad out for an animal control, a part-time position for animal control.
How many hours?
So it's 30 hours.
30?
30 hours, maybe part-time, 30 hours a week.
30 hours.
Mhm.
Motion.
What?
And this is just putting an ad out in the paper to get applications for this position.
How much an hour?
It's starting at 15.
15?
I make a motion to do that.
Advertise.
Is there gonna be a deadline on the application and
You're
our
second.
positions?
You go first.
I'm sorry,
We got a first and a second discussion.
discussion. So is this gonna be until it's filled, or will there be a time?
It can be, the ad in the paper will run for 2 weeks, but until it's filled, we'll take an application. But usually with animal control, we usually get quite a few applicants for the position.
So I got a motion by Dawson, second by Hartzell.
Roll call? No, we'll just do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hiring of police officer.
Okay, so, anyways. We have a position for our police department, that, we haven't put an ad out. As you know, we don't have the applications coming in that we wish we had, but we do have one applicant that I'd like to present to the council, and I'd like for them to, I'd like for the council to go ahead and make a commitment to hire on her graduation from the Phelps County Police Academy. So it'd be a brand new officer that would also be able to start almost immediately after her graduation of July 24th.
What's her name?
Her name is, hang on, I have it right here. I always forget, Madison Courtright. Court and R-I-G-H-T. And now I know that there are issues with wanting to save money with the city and stuff like that. I've already working with animal control, we've already worked on that budget a little bit because they do work in the police department. This position is already budgeted. It is a position we need to fill. We already moved officers around to make sure that we have coverage. There's no uniformity to my captain or my lieutenant who work around these hours trying to make sure that we have ample coverage. And when I say ample coverage, I don't mean just one person on, I mean 2 people on. Officer safety things, there's some stuff you can look through. It's an older one from 2000. You have to wait for the color copy. I just put it down, didn't realize it. No, wait, I got you. I saved money by not printing it in color. It is black and white.
Oh, I still see it.
But anyways, these are things just for you to look at as far as, you know, when we have coverage for one person and that officer is on by himself and he takes them to jail, that leaves the city uncovered. Who steps up in the middle of the night? My captain does. My lieutenant does. So they're working nights too, as well as working days. They move their shifts all around to make sure that when these guys are tied up, when there's only one person working, they're working. Now my captain and lieutenant, myself, not included, because, you know, I work Monday through Friday during the days. They want uniformity too in their jobs. They want to be able to know when they can take off for vacation, when they need to do things. The work that they do in the office, I can't even give them enough credit for the amount of work that my captain and lieutenant do. There's a lot of times with a lot of the things that we're doing with these criminals, we have to take them for a fifth nowadays before we can take them to jail. Now we're talking 3 or 4 hours that an officer's tied up. So fill the position is much needed. Not only just because we're tied up and doing those things for the citizens, it's officer safety. Officer safety is huge. You can see in here the number of people that are the number of officers that get assaulted, you know, when they're working by themselves, you know, killed in line of actions. And I don't want our city to be a statistic for anybody to put down on paper that that's what happened in Cuba. I know that revenue's down. We can't help, the police department can't help the revenue. The crime doesn't go down because the revenue goes down. In fact, I think it might actually go up, if you think about it. We're building another subdivision that's going to add 500 homes, and we eliminate a position. Now our officers are working even harder to patrol out there as well. These are things that we have to have. We're not the highest paid police department around, and it's going to be so easy that if we don't fill this position, and we have these officers that are like tired of working, no uniformity to their schedule, it's going to be so easy to go to another police department and work where they have their secondary workers, backups right there. We can't wait for county to back them up 30 minutes later. If you've ever got into a fight with somebody and it's a knockdown, drag out fight, 1 minute feels like a half an hour. Can you imagine waiting a half an hour? No. And there's times when my officers are working by themselves and there's nobody else working, and another crime is committed. Are we doing our citizens justice by not being able to respond, or waiting for, county can take care of it, we'll call them? Should they wait 30, 40 minutes for county? And I'm not saying the county's going to be at that slope. We don't know where they're at. We can't base what we do off what county does. Same with any of my other officers that are SROs that work at the school, or whether there's another SRO at the school. I don't care that there's another county. I have my SROs there. I ran an election with putting a second SRO at the school, and I won that campaign with that. And I did just that. I did what I promised the citizens I would do. That's why there's 2 of them up there. So, any questions so far? Anybody have any questions in reference to that?
Informal, I would ask for informal discussions, so we might do a first and a second. Is that okay with you guys? Informal discussions? And you can talk as long as you want.
Well, Lou had an idea.
What? The SRO?
Yeah.
I've received some information. The SRO, both positions are being paid by the city, correct?
Correct. That was changed about 4 or 5 years ago when they switched over. I forgot the exact reason why. The school was, because one of them used to be, and it's something that can always be reached out to see if they're willing to still do that. I know there was a change in their superintendents, so that's when things changed, and the board decided to keep them up there regardless of what the superintendents and the schools decided to do. I'm not 100% sure on.
So there's a total of 3 at the school, correct? One's county, 2 city?
I'm not even worried about the county.
Well, I'm just saying the school has one in each section. Do you know or not? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, in each building, in each different building.
Each building, right, okay. But of those, 2 of them are city of Cuba.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you think that they might pay one of those again?
That's a discussion I have to to talk to the school. I can't speak on their behalf or say what they are.
That would be a discussion for the school board.
That'd be for me to do, to present to the superintendent or the assistant superintendent, this summer. I mean, I don't know when their budget year is, and that's a discussion they would have to have with their board.
So they did that, did they?
It had been done before, yes.
Because I don't think we should short the police officers in town for the safety of the people, and if we could get that one paid for.
We can work on it, but here's the thing with the school, during Tuesday through Friday, the school holds the largest population of the city.
Yeah,
Why would we take it off from that?
we don't want
That
to.
would be
We don't want to
horrible
do that at all.
if we turn that into a statistic at the school, and we don't want that. We already know, and you guys have already heard of school shootings, stuff like that. Officers are trained for that, and they're there and they're ready.
Yeah, I want 3 officers in the school, 2 of them being officers, the better. Only thing is, you know, we're in a budget crunch right now, and if the school district can look at paying for one somewhere, somehow, or whatever,
Yeah,
that would be an option.
Right, that's something that I can discuss with them, but that cannot be a factor in tonight's decision.
Right, no. Absolutely not tonight's decision.
Anybody else? Jennifer?
Yeah, I gave you all a sheet over the police wages over the years. I don't think I think the numbers speak for themselves. So,
Well, I can tell you about one
Can
thing.
I finish? I let you speak, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In 2023, the wages were $773,724. In 2024, the wages ended at $834,887. In 2025, the wages were $937,950. And currently this year, and that ended in April 30th, we're at $753,766. And that is slightly lower than it was that time last year. So when we think about this, starting in FY23 with an increasing salaries, what I can assume is full staffing. We ended our fiscal year with those salaries. We budgeted in FY24 substantially with the full staff to that, with $1.50 across the board increase for each employee. In FY25, each police officer received a $6,000 a year per officer increase, bringing that annual increase to that $937 a year. The finance office fought against that raise and felt that that was something that could not be sustainable to the city of Cuba. For FY26, all current employees received 55 cents per hour, and newly hired employees only received a quarter. With recent staff decreases, currently we're seeing a budget decline from this time last year. This shows me that attrition of employees can and needs to be done. Our budgets cannot handle the current wage load of the police department. So what I'm asking is there's more questions that need to be answered currently and could be answered in committee before we just make a vote on a police officer. There are more questions to this picture. Attrition is something that needs to be done, not just in the police department, but in all departments. We are at a time where we can no longer continue at the wage load that we are facing. I have worked on your FY27 budget, and I don't know where we're going to come up with the numbers. This picture does not lie right here. This is not the only department that is facing this. You have seen the steady increase of wages. When you see departments that have not had employees replaced for several months, you see the decline. It works. It needs to be done. And we need to work on how we're going to get to that point and what is the minimum load we can take.
So we obviously see that we're still hiring. And this position is still budgeted. Had that officer not left, we'd still be here. And we'd still be operating, still moving forward. We can't fault the police department or at the officers just for getting pay raises that every employee got. These aren't pay raises just the police department got. The $6,000 raise was an increase to our starting salary. That was with the elimination of one position. We eliminated a full-time position, so I had 15 at that time. That eliminated it, completely eliminated that position to get that $6,000 raise, to raise our starting salary up, to keep our officers. Not just to only bring in applicants to fill a position, but to keep the officers from like, man, I'm gonna go somewhere else if we don't get this raise.
Can I give a suggestion so that we don't have to say yes or no tonight?
I think we need to say yes or no, or we're gonna lose.
When does she graduate the school?
She graduates July 24th. But here's the thing, if we don't, and she looks somewhere else, now we're gonna be back to square one with zero.
You wanna hear me out first before?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, I'm not.
Just in case it doesn't go yay and goes nay, and then you're done. My suggestion would be this, and it's only a suggestion because I don't get a vote. Go to the schools, see whether or not they're willing to pay for the CRO. You've got the summer coming up, and your resource officer is gonna come back into the fold through the summer, correct?
One of them stays for summer school, one of them comes out on the road.
Okay, so that solves our immediate problem of the body. Let me finish. It solves the immediate problem for the body. At the same time, I had a conversation with our auditor today, and he said we need to have an immediate talk concerning the budgets for 2024 and 2025.
Mm-hmm.
I also will tell you that I have met with our banker. I got a call from them. I went and met with our banker, and we are in a financial dilemma. So that said, rather than taking a chance for the no and it be done, I would suggest that you get through the summer and let us get through this budget and find out what we're facing through till July for the new budget. Then there's not a no to you, and you make it through the summer, and we can re-entertain it when we get through talking with the auditors and we get through talking with July.
Okay, and I hear what you're saying.
It's your call.
But I'm thinking that, we're putting this all on the police department, that the city's low revenue is all on the police department. My officers are still out there doing their thing, writing reports, taking the calls. And I think that if the council declines doing it, let's hear the council decline hiring, making a commitment to hire, and then we'll see where the city goes from there. See how the citizens appreciate the lack of officers.
The only thing I have to say is, you can't hire, or you can hire, but you can't hire if you don't have the money. That's the only thing I say. But
And it's like I said,
the need's there, there's no doubt about it.
Right, well, like I said, we already had, if this officer had to resign, we'd still be paying him. He'd still be here. It's
Well,
budgeted.
I mean, that may be true, but we all say it's budgeted, right? But there comes a time when we lose an employee and we say, this is the time that we
But I don't
do
think this is that
attrition.
time.
And we are to that time, because if the new budget would come around and we would rehire, it would be in the budget, that's true. But now you lose an employee, attrition happens, and it's not rebudgeted for the next year. That's how attrition works.
Understandable how it works, so.
Well,
But we just hired 2 new people, right?
310 for one, and the other one is a mandatory because it's natural gas and we have to have it reporting.
So that the police isn't a mandatory?
It is. It is.
to a certain extent, you have to have attrition in certain departments.
I agree with Doug.
And we did, a
don't
couple
lose
years
money.
ago when we eliminated the position.
Yes, we did.
Is there anything else on this one?
That's the way I'm understanding it, is you've lost a person.
We had 15 police officers, and we were losing officers to other towns that paid more. And the police department decided to drop it to 14 and take that salary and split it among the remaining officers to give them the bring starting pay up. And they're still running on 14 officers.
That's not where the 6,000 a year came from.
Yeah, it is, correct.
No, it is not. It came from the elimination of the public works director when we had it in the budget. And we decided not to hire a public works director, and we gave the $6,000 a year to the police department.
Don't get angry, man, I'm not angry at you.
Hold on.
Where was that, when was the elimination of the position?
Around 23.
It was,
And then we had a raise with the elimination of that officer, correct? Okay.
6,025. All up.
Anything else, Doug?
That's my mark, that's margin.
So the motion is to approve, hiring of a police officer, Madison Corright, who will graduate from the Phelps County.
That's my recommendation, there hasn't been a motion yet.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have a first?
So we can't short on police officers, that's the safety of our citizens. But we're in a money crunch, but
My question would be crime statistics. Do we have any Cuba-specific statistics that go along with this spend information? I mean, we're just saying safety, but we don't have any numbers to back it up. Is crime getting worse? Is crime getting better? Are we arresting more people? I mean, I feel like I don't know anything without the statistics.
That can definitely be, looked into. The reporting system that we have right now doesn't really break that down as to, I do know that we have, just last year, it was over 4,232 calls for service, and that's just the calls that 911's calling, giving us, the officers. That's not the officers on self-initiated, tasks, traffic stops and visual things that they see and then they go after. It's not the work that, my detective does with our task force officer, the NIG officer, to do search warrants and things like that.
Is there anything that gets reported, and what follow to his question, is there anything that gets reported, even over a municipality to the Department of Public Safety, like an audit or something, or yearly, so they can get their statistics from crime around the area, where the high spots are, low spots and all that?
We don't have that.
You know, a few years back, we already had an officer that got shot in the line of duty. And we don't want that to happen again, to find out that we should have had a full staff.
and if we short the police department and something bad happens, can't we be held liable for that? For voting to short the police? I think we are liable for our votes.
Emily would know that.
Right.
Say that again, Joyce.
I said if we short the police and something bad happens, could we have liability for our votes for shorting the police?
Somebody has to determine.
No, but, the liability issue determines on what would happen, and not on the vote.
Okay. It's time for a motion and a second and vote. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion it's not a done deal yet, till she's still in school.
It's a commitment to hire her.
Yeah,
Done deal.
It'd be a done deal, because by time she starts and after FTO, summer's over.
And you are gonna check in to see if the school would pay for me?
Oh, sure, we can always check into that.
Okay, did you make a motion?
Is there any possible way you could hold this off till the next council meeting and reach out to us a little bit?
I think we need more time to think, if you're gonna consider that. But that's not on the table tonight, so.
What?
That was just an option for Doug.
I'm asking before
No, I'm talking about, he asked what I said, and I said, that was just a suggestion for Doug.
This is completely up to council.
No, really. I asked you a question about Is there any possibility to put this off till the next?
Oh, just wait for an answer?
Let me,
For you, reach out to the schools.
Right, but you're,
it is possible to put it off to the next meeting, but what we're doing is kicking the can down the road with the possibility of her going somewhere else, is what he's getting at.
Yeah.
If we don't secure her by offering her the position, she may find a job somewhere else.
That, I understand that.
and we're trying to make a decision on something in 2 weeks, the school's not gonna have an answer.
Yeah, that really isn't gonna change that.
They won't have an answer by then.
I just hate to hire someone and then have to lay them off the week
Yeah.
after they start working.
You're right.
That would screw her on getting a job now.
I don't know why we would do that.
I'll make the motion to commit. I don't know how the end result's gonna be.
I'll second the motion.
Do a roll call vote. Any other discussion? Do a roll call vote.
Hudson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Mormar, Mary,
Yes.
Roseman,
No, I'd like to wait.
Dennis.
He does.
Okay, motion passes. To hire Madison Fortline, who graduates July 24th.
Thank you, council. Anything else? Under my nuisance, had one come in for some tall grass, haven't had a chance to take care of that, over in Eden Prairie. I think it's, it might be a drainage ditch area, it might be something for the city, haven't had a chance to look into that. Any other nuisances, I haven't heard any more, especially with the rain, so I can keep up with the mowing rain.
That was item 17.
Oh, we jump?
Yeah.
Oh, did I jump?
Yeah, that's all right.
And where'd you say that was happening?
You what?
Where'd you say it
It's
was?
over on the prairie. I'll take it, it's on that just came in today. I'll take care of it tomorrow. But I haven't had any other nuisances in the prairie.
Okay. Next item, number 11, was Park and Recreation Committee, Park and Recreation Board appointments. At the April 21st council meeting, some Park and Recreation Board appointments were made, but the terms were not clarified. Ashley Wells is replacing Michael Dowdy Benavides. I couldn't tear that name up. Benavides, and the term expires May 1st, 2028. Rosalind Reiner is replacing Christine Young, and that term expires May 3rd, 2027. There are 3 seats that expire on May 4th. Has expired May 4th. Beth Kite is reappointed to a term that expires May 7th, 2029. Diane Cooper is replacing Karen Groom, and that term expires May 7th, 2029. Monica Harris is replacing Faye Howard. That term will expire May 7th, 2029. Josh Heeperman is replacing Maria Smith. Did I say that right?
Josh Heffernan.
Heffernan, yep. And that term expires May 1st, 2028. Amina DeLuna is replacing Stacy Romo. That term expires May 3rd, 2027. Amina, are you here? Could you stand up? I want everybody to see.
Yes. I get to go to work.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Amina is 19 years old. She's going to be the youth on our board. I say youth, but really a young lady. She currently works at People's Bank. She also works at Scooters. Great work ethic. She's also going to college at ECC, and I would like to recognize her for her commitment to the community. Thank you. Hiring of the pool employees.
We have to have, you make the appointments that the board has to do.
Make the appointments. I need a first and a second to approve the hiring.
I make a motion to approve,
to-
or approve the ordinance.
Second.
Second. Roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hiring of pool employees, planning will go through that with you.
It was a recommendation at the April 28th Park and Recreation meeting to recommend hiring Michael Ballner as assistant manager and certified lifeguard, Caroline Fancher, Trishelle Damo, and Aaliyah Decker, all as returning certified lifeguards, Sakura Horsfield as a front desk concessions worker, and Isabella Robertson as a front desk and concessions worker. Sakura, I'm sorry, Sakura. To my understanding, this fulfills the pool employees.
Need a first? Motion from us. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one is the approval of selling pool passes to Cuba School.
This was recommended last year also for the schools who purchased discounted passes. Per legal advice last year, I looked it up and we denied that request. It is not, we were told it is not suggested to discount pool passes. So for the schools who purchased 17 pool passes, it would be $765 instead of the $600 that they offered as a discounted cost.
So,
That was
So
legal.
we're gonna sell them at a discounted price?
So
no.
they asked, and the Park and Recreation were recommended to do so, but after, this came up last year, and it was recommended that we did not do that.
So,
So if they choose to still purchase all 17, it would be $765 instead of the $600.
they're wanting to sell them to give them a break to 600 versus 765.
And there was legal counsel not to do that, right?
Last year, I did get the recommendation, and I looked up my emails from last year, and it was recommended to not do so, and this will ended up being full price.
What do we need to do then? Nothing?
We would just have to sell, if they still want to buy 17 passes, then.
You don't have to have approval to sell them passes. You have to have approval if you choose to give them a reduced cost.
So we don't need to do anything about it.
If we're not gonna, does anybody want to give them a reduced price, basically?
Okay, that's approval of selling the passes.
So that is tabled, it was not voted on. Okay, the next one on the agenda, surplus bid, the Old Tangle Creek Pavilion. We've got a little time before the ribbon cutting. They're still working on painting, and if the rain never quits, they may not get those things painted through the summer. However, we had agreed to tear down that pavilion, and after looking at it and discussing it with the street guys and everything, there's a possibility that we could actually sell that as surplus, and somebody else, instead of us tearing it down, allowing somebody else to take the metal and the wood that might be able to use it. So put that up for bid. Whatever we get for it, we sell the item, and then they have so much time, probably we'll give them a week to have it out of the park. Motion?
Second.
Have a second? All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion.
So if we're gonna sell the surplus, and whoever the purchaser or highest bidder would be on, tearing it down or doing whatever, is there any liability on us in the city if they get hurt?
That's a good question.
Because it's currently city property, but we did sell it to them, and if they tear it down and get hurt,
There could be, I mean, if it's a condition
kind of like liability.
of city property.
Okay.
We're covered.
What's that?
I think we're covered.
We have to talk to them.
Whether you want to take that risk, I guess.
So should we require them to have insurance on that?
Well, how many people are gonna comply with that if it's just,
No one.
Yes, salvage.
to come pick up a pavilion? I doubt many.
supervise, have somebody there with them to reduce that chance of happening?
That helps. I mean, there's always a risk.
Yeah. And there's a risk our guys would get hurt with the same thing, but we would have
Right.
insurance to cover that, so. Your call, you have a first and a second. We'll do a roll call.
Redmond,
Yes.
Ranieri,
No.
Warner,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Motion passes, we'll put it out for bid. We'll do it for, he will do for about a week. Let's put it out for bid for a week.
okay, so,
Okay, we'll put it out for bid for a week. Highest bidder gets it, and we have a week to tear it down and do that.
Sound good?
That way it's out of the way, we don't have to tear it down, and then if the pickleball courts say to get done, we won't have it anymore. Treatment plant. Thank you.
All right, gonna try to make this short and sweet, as much as we can. At the last meeting, you guys approved the budget revision request for $10,000 from the clarifier project. I'd like to use that money for hydrants. We have 3 clarifiers, and there's hydrants next to them that one is inoperable right now. The other one leaks 24/7, and barely turn it on, and the other one leaks when you run all 3 clarifiers like I have been most of April with all the rain we've had, it builds up algae on the clarifier weirs, and you have to close it off and keep everything clean, or it affects the operations of your plant. So since you guys approved everything, I'd just like to go out and go ahead and, I got a bid from Schulte Supply for 3 hydrants. It's just 2-inch hydrants, stick it out of the ground, put a hose to it, you can blast the algae off. That's what it's for. $8,278.74. The revision was for $10,000, so it comes in well under that.
Budget?
Yeah, we did that the last meeting, you guys, but.
Did you say that amount again, please?
$8,278.74.
Motion.
This is for, just information, this is for parts and you install.
Yeah, it's the hydrant, all the couplers, fittings, everything's all 2-inch.
And you also said that this was budgeted at 10?
It was budgeted as part of a clarifier project that since we're not doing that project now due to the pending expansion in a couple of years, we didn't want to spend that kind of money on clarifier right now. So I asked for it to be transferred from that capital project to this.
Okay.
And you guys approved all that, but here's the actual bid for it.
Jeremy asked if you were installing the equipment.
Oh, yeah, we're installing, yeah, to be in-house.
Okay, we got a first, and do we have a second?
Yeah.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, item B, the lift station maintenance. Given, I had this on the agenda, it's not a budgeted item for this year, but I was hoping to get it in the budget for next year. But given the recent financial circumstances that have been brought to my attention as an employee and everything, I don't feel right asking for that. It's never been we've never had this maintenance agreement. I think dollar for dollar, it's money well spent if we did it. But since we've never had it, we've lived without it all these years, I'd like to just wait until next year when maybe the finances look a little better. So I'd like to table that and just move on from that.
Thank you.
So I gave everybody, we skip that one.
Yeah.
Move on.
Number 14, website update. Okay, good.
Website update, we are just about as ready as we can be. We've messed around with it enough to try to figure out how to edit everything and make everything function, and it should be ready to go. I have requested with the company that we go live sometime in the end of May. That'll give Jessica and I enough time to finish up the last few loose ends we need to finish up with it. And then, so I'm waiting on a response from them right now to give us an official date, because it's up to them when they actually hit the switch over button. At that point, the current city website will be gone, and we'll fully operate on this new one. So at that time, if there's anything we've missed, like any links that are broken, any phone numbers that are wrong, anything like that, we're gonna ask you guys and the community to go to the website. Any issues you guys find, let us know. Jessica and I will get on it and fix it. But I think we've pretty well got everything wrapped up. I think it's working pretty well.
The only question I have is, and I've had experience on organizations changing websites and URLs and all that good stuff. So when they said they flip the switch and this old one will be dead, if you had it saved as a favorite on your phone and you opened it, would it say page not found? Or would you have to erase your history and your favorites and redo it?
If we had switched the URL, there would be a forwarding process that the company would do for a time. It would just, like, you type in cityofcuba.com, it would, like, to go to the old site and your favorites address, it would take you to the new, forward you to the new, and say like you're being redirected to the new page. But we're keeping the URL the same. It's going to be cityofcubamode.com. So it's going to be exactly the same as it is now, because we wanted a .gov address, but the federal government has put applications for that on hold, so we can't even apply to get a .gov address right now. I am checking that site regularly, so whenever that does come available and we can apply, I'll give it to Wendy because it's some information she's got. We'll have to do that and apply and all that. At that point, the same thing would happen when people type in cityofcubamode.com, they'll say you're being redirected to .gov. And it'll open a new page. Any questions or any other questions?
Good work.
Water Department, accept the resignation of the water laborer Bryce Mills.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Discussion and approval to advertise bidding a copy release at City Hall.
Did you skip one?
Water labor.
Well, we're tabling that.
We
Oh.
table. Yeah.
Oh, that was tabled.
Discussion and approval to advertise bidding a copy release at City Hall.
So we have it in the budget for this year, and we're just asking to advertise and see. I have two, Marco and GFI, that have approached to have bids on our copy release for our big copier in our copier room that is up currently. So we're just asking to basically get some bids from them on a new copy release.
On the same company?
Marco is the current company that we have, and GFI is the other one. I do not know of any other companies that do copy releases in the area, but if I do find another one, I will send one to them. I'll approach them as well. We can put something in the paper, but I don't know if we'll get any bidders for this because it's a copy release. I would just like your permission just to approach these two and just get something in and have it to you by the next meeting.
I don't know if this is the right time or not, but when we put something in the paper for an advertisement for a position or a bid or public notice, does each paper obviously, do they charge the cities for that, for each one of those? And that is in the budget too?
We have to have advertising money,
Okay.
the budget.
Neil, is that okay to do? Or do we need to put it out for public bid?
How big is this?
The specific copier bid, I don't know that.
It's a lease, it'd be a lease, so it'd be like a couple $100 a month, maybe, at the most.
I think generally we should put that out for bid.
I mean, we're gonna approach Marco and GFI. Those are the only two companies in the area that I know of. I know Rico doesn't exist anymore. They were bought out by GFI. I don't know of any other copy release companies, so those are the only two I know of.
Should we do a social media post? Will that count as an actual advertisement?
I'm gonna have to look, do you have any policies, ordinances, or handbook covering that?
I say since there's a doubt, that we should probably run the ad.
We can do that, and I'll just go ahead and I'll approach those other two companies. That way we're definitely gonna get something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't the police department on one of those as well? Is it on the same as yours that
Our-
you're talking about? Or is it
The one that we have in ours is, that's the only one that Marco approached me about that was up on lease. The other ones have not come up yet.
Does somebody come in and look at yours?
Yours might be, I think yours is a little bit behind us, lease-wise. I think you got yours right.
Is ours leased to Public Works?
Do you have one?
No, we don't have a whole lot.
I don't know about yours.
Well, let's address this one, and then that might be something that we look at to find out, do you guys even have?
I know that the police department and public works do have one, as
I
well.
thought they were all
But
covered at the same time.
they were not.
I know the expense of buying rather than leasing is crazy, ridiculous.
So the leasing gets us maintenance on the machine.
Then you would have to have a maintenance agreement and
So
that
we have
would
the
cost-
maintenance
that would-
agreement.
That would cost nearly the same as what it would to lease it. To own it, and it would be more expensive to actually own it than it would to lease and
So that's why we lease.
Okay, so we need a motion to advertise bidding a copier lease at City Hall.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We already did the nuisance report, out of order, chief. Number 18, bill number 2212. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Cuba Ball Program for the use of facilities located at Cuba Sports Complex. No?
We're not there yet. One second. You're just reading off the agenda.
Oh, you'll read the agenda, okay.
Okay, motion to have the first reading of bill number 2212.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of the city of Cuba, Missouri, to enter into an agreement with Cuba Ball Program for the use of facilities located at Cuba Sports Complex.
Motion to approve, motion to approve the first reading of bill number 2212.
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, go ahead, Marzella, Crawford.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Marzella.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Mortimer.
Yes.
Ranieri.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Motion to have the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of the city of Cuba, Missouri, to enter into an agreement with Cuba Ball Program for the use of facilities located at Cuba Sports Complex.
Motion to approve the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote?
President.
Yes.
Ranieri.
Yes.
Mortimer.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Marzella.
Yes.
Bill number 2212 becomes special ordinance 959 on this 5th day of May 2026. Okay.
Four more.
Yeah. Motion to have the first reading of bill number 2213.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of the city of Cuba, Missouri, to enter into an agreement with Cuba Soccer Association for the use of facilities located at Cuba Hood Park.
Motion to approve the first reading.
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Marzella.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Mortimer.
Yes.
Ranieri.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Motion to have the second reading.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of the city of Cuba, Missouri, to enter into an agreement with Cuba Soccer Association for the use of facilities located at Cuba Hood Park.
Motion to approve the second reading.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
President.
Yes.
Ranieri.
Yes.
Mortimer.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Marzella.
Yes.
Bill number 2213 becomes special ordinance 960 on this 5th day of May 2026. Motion to have the first reading of bill number 2214.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Utility Safety and Design Inc., USDI, for engineering and training services required for the operation of the natural gas system.
Motion to approve the first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Hudson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Motion to have the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Utility Safety and Design Inc., USDI, for engineering and training services required for the operation of the natural gas system.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
President.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Bill number 2214 becomes special ordinance 961 on this 5th day of May 2026. Motion to have the first reading of bill number 2215.
Motion.
Time better.
Got it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Missouri Public Utility Alliance, MPUA, for natural gas operator qualification evaluations.
Motion to approve the first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Hudson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Motion to have the second reading?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Missouri Public Utility Alliance, MPUA, for natural gas operator qualification evaluations.
Motion to approve the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
President.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Bill number 2215 becomes special ordinance 962 on this 5th day of May 2026. One more. Motion to have the first reading of bill number 2216.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Charles Schroyer for hay cutting services at the Cuba Municipal Airport, Barnett Industrial Park, and Treatment Plant.
Motion to approve the first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Hudson.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Motion to have the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Cuba, Missouri, on behalf of said city to enter into an agreement with Charles Schroyer for hay cutting services at the Cuba Municipal Airport, Barnett Industrial Park, and Treatment Plant.
Motion to approve the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote?
President.
Yes.
Renieri.
Yes.
Watermeyer.
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Bill number 2216 becomes special ordinance 963 on this 5th day of May 2026. Okay, number 23, old unfinished business. Joyce?
I don't have anything right now.
Russ?
No.
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 Now the fun begins. We were required in May to do a sunshine law education per ordinance. Our lawyer, Emily, will be doing the presentation.
Take just a quick break before
Yeah,
we
we'll
start.
take a quick break. Let's take a 5-minute break while they get set up, and then we'll come back. You're still recording them, right?
Oh, we have handouts for the Alder
Yes.
as well. Okay, thank you.
I apologize, the technology, we just couldn't get it to, and Dave tried hard, just didn't work. I'm going to. I'll do my best to come up with half an hour. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so there's a lot to the sunshine law. We're going to focus really on the provisions that apply primarily to a body like the Board of Aldermen. There is a whole section and several sections of the statute that deal specifically about law enforcement records, but we really aren't covering that here tonight, and we don't have time to do that probably in a half an hour segment. So, what is the sunshine law? It promotes transparency through open government and public accountability. It applies to meetings, records, votes, actions, and deliberations of a public governmental body, which would be this body, which includes any committees, including any advisory committees, police departments, special districts, anything of that nature under this governing body, it would include and apply to. It does not apply to just an individual board member or an employee. That's not a public governmental body. And the default action, the thing to keep in mind is openness is the default. There are exceptions to that, but the default is it should be transparent and open to the public unless it falls within a specific category, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. The Sunshine Law does not apply to an informal gathering of members of a public governmental body for ministerial or social purposes. So just because you all might be somewhere together, such as a Christmas party or something of that nature, that's not a meeting of a public governmental body. The things that courts have commented on is it covered under Sunshine Law? Well, let's look at whether there was an agenda or this was a structured or unstructured meeting or get together. Were there any votes taken or any policies established? Did people take turns talking to a group that was assembled? And does it basically have any trappings, or does it look like a duck, smell like a duck, and walk like a duck? If not, then it's probably not going to apply as a public meeting subject to the Sunshine Law. So how does the Sunshine Law apply to this Board of Aldermen in your meetings? It applies to any meeting where you have a quorum present and public business is discussed, whether that be in person, whether that be email, whether that be text, whether that be conference call of the members, or a Zoom or Microsoft Teams meetings, any kind of video conferencing system or software like that, it would apply. Notice of meetings must be posted a minimum of 24 hours in advance. That's nothing new to this group. That does not include weekends and holidays. Notices must include the date, time, location, and tentative agenda. It should be posted in a prominent place that's easily accessible to the public, and it should be, the location of the meeting should be a place of sufficient size to accommodate the anticipated attendance. Sometimes it's hard to tell here, I think, from one meeting to the next. The public does have a right to attend and record open session meetings, open meetings, audio and video recording, but they don't necessarily have any right to speak at the open meetings. So something to keep in mind, this body allows a citizen participation time, but that's not a requirement. So public can attend, but they don't necessarily have any right to speak during those open meetings.
So what you're saying is if we wanted to, because of time constraints, we could eliminate the public participation part, and that is legal?
Yes.
Not necessarily the wisest.
No, I'm just saying.
Probably not the wisest for your governance and listening to your constituents, but in a situation where you're pressed for time, you know, things are.
That's why most of the special meetings, we don't do public participation.
Yeah, you're here to get certain things done and be over. So
Your agenda should be constructed in a manner reasonably calculated to advise the public of the matters to be discussed at the meeting. So those of you who've been on the board for a little while or attended some of these meetings, you know that we frequently have discussions about, is this on the agenda? Can we do it? Did we put on here that we were gonna vote on this tonight? And if we haven't really advised the public of exactly what you might be doing, so we really shouldn't be taking, well, we shouldn't take any sort of vote on it. The city must also have its own sunshine law policy. You do. That is codified in chapter 120 of the city ordinances. Your policies related to the sunshine law. And the determination in looking at the things you're discussing during your meeting will make the determination for you as to whether that meeting's open or closed. It's the topics of things that you're discussing and where they should fall, whether it's open or closed meeting. So moving to city records and discussion of records, and this goes into a response to records requests. So the definition of public record is any record retained by the city regardless of form. That's emails, text messages, even on personal devices could be public records, videos, and documents. The city, however, is not required to create records in order to respond to a records request. So if a request is really basically somebody wanting a city employee to pull something together that we don't normally have and compile a bunch of data into some report or form that they're requesting, the city's not required to do that. You're only required to provide records that you currently keep. You don't have to create new ones. The city must designate a custodian of records. Responses to records requests must be provided within 3 business days. And you have 3 responses that are appropriate in response to a records request. You can provide the requested records, you can inform the requester that the records sought are closed and you need to cite for them the proper provision on why those records are closed and you won't be providing them. Or you can explain why there's going to be a delay in getting those records to them and estimate when the records will be provided. For instance, I think we've had some records requests come in. They were of a nature that a certain city employee really was in charge and control of those records and had most of the knowledge about those records. And if that employee was off for some reason, vacation maybe for a week or whatever, it's certainly reasonable if nobody else really can provide that information to respond within the 3 business days and say, the employee in charge of those records is on vacation, we will respond next week or by whatever date with the records requested. But a response needs to be made. There is no specific form that a records request in the city has to take. It can be submitted by letter, it can be done by email, it can be done by phone, or it can be done in person. Some of those are going to be difficult, obviously, because it's going to be hard in a passing conversation to make a records request and have the records custodian or whoever they're talking to accurately get that information down. So obviously it's preferable to have that in writing from someone, but the law, the Sunshine Law, does not require any specific format for a records request to be submitted in. The city can charge reasonable fees for duplication and search time when they are responding to a records request. The statutes specifically state that copying fees of no more than 10 cents per 9x14 page or smaller is appropriate. Hourly rates can be charged for making copies, but they cannot exceed the average hourly rate of pay for clerical staff of the city. You can charge research time at the actual cost that it takes you for that, and efforts should be made to keep those costs reasonable. If you have the city employees you can utilize to respond to records requests that will result in a lower amount of charges for the search, copying, research time, and compiling, then you should do that. If the city requests payment of fees prior to fulfilling a request and those fees are not paid, there are provisions, newer provisions in the statute about being able to consider a request withdrawn if those fees aren't paid. So if you respond to a records request and say, and often in a good formulated records request, somebody is going to ask to please advise me what the fees are up front, often if they're over a certain dollar amount. So the city responds to that. If it's going to be a large job, or you think there's gonna be some expense involved in, you should respond, request payment of fees prior to fulfilling their request. And if those fees are paid in 90 days, or 150 days if it's gonna be over $1,000, then that request is considered withdrawn. So you no longer have duty to respond. That is also similar to requests where you're asking for clarification. On the request, if the records custodian is not sure what the requester is asking for, they can respond and request clarification. If clarification is not provided within those same timeframes, then the request can be considered withdrawn. Chapter 109 of the Missouri Revised Statutes governs record retention, and the Secretary of State's office has a local government records management guidelines document that they publish that I'm sure that the city is aware of. So the Sunshine Law really isn't about governing the policies, the methods, the timeframes for record retention. That's something else. That's a whole other section of statutes we probably don't want to get into tonight. So additional information responding to requests for records. You should address any fee estimates in the city's initial response letter. It's a good idea to do an initial search and estimate how many documents that might be responsive and identify that in the letter. All employees should know who your custodian of records is, and they should forward any request to the custodian immediately because of that very tight 3 business day deadline in providing a response. The city can seek clarification from the requester if needed, and should confirm how the records are going to be produced, if you're going to produce them in electronic or paper format. And even if there aren't any records to produce in response to a request, if it's something that the city doesn't have under their control, or records they don't keep, again, it's not something you have to manufacture. If you don't have it, you still need to send a response to the requester that there are no records in existence to their request. The law does indicate that you should try to redact if possible rather than closing an entire record. So if there's just a little bit of information in a record requested that is something that falls under the statutory section that says these are the things you can't disclose, if it's possible, consider redacting that information and going ahead and providing the rest of the record. If the records that are being sought are definitely closed, and there's just no question about it, the city cannot provide those records in response, then you should provide as much of a response as possible to the requester without disclosing any information that should remain closed to explain that you can't provide it. And notice needs to be given to the requester about payment of fees and deadlines, or the request will be considered withdrawn. So you should include that information in your response that we're asking for these fees up front. If we don't receive them in this time frame, your request will be considered withdrawn. We're asking for clarification. If we don't receive clarification within this time frame, your request will be considered withdrawn. Just good practice. And of course, whenever your custodian of records has a question about whether something can be provided or not, you certainly always should contact your counsel and get an answer or clarification on that. Moving to closed session. The reason for having any closed session must be specified in your agenda, and it is limited to those topics. To have a closed session discussion, it must fall under specific exceptions that are allowed by statute. Some of the most common ones I have put in the handouts, that would be legal or litigation, so legal actions, causes of action, pending litigation, potential litigation, other confidential or privileged communications between the board and its attorneys, the board and its auditors is also another issue that comes up in terms of confidential or privileged communications. Those are reasons, common reasons why you can have a discussion in closed session. Real estate is often another area for closed session discussion, and that would be leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate generally. Personnel is another common reason for closed sessions. Hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees when personal information about that employee is being discussed should strictly be in closed session. There are also certain public safety, security system, computer access information discussions that should be only in a closed session just due to the nature, obviously, of that information. Bid processes and sealed bids and contracts until you're ready to disclose that information can be discussed in closed session but should remain closed records. Currently, after the changes to the law last year, there are 29 listed categories of exceptions to open records in the statutory section 610.21. That changes and can change from year to year by the legislature. So right now we have 29. The rule is if your records don't fall within those 29 categories or your discussion topics for meetings don't fall in those categories, then it's open. You must conduct a roll call vote to move into closed session, and it's also important to remember, I don't know that it's ever a problem here, but you may not record a closed session without permission of the entire board. To do so in violation is a Class C misdemeanor, so it is a criminal charge. Meeting minutes from meetings of public bodies have to include certain information by law. They have to include the date of the meeting, the time of the meeting, the location of the meeting, a specific listing of the members present and the members who are absent. There has to be a record of all votes taken, including a vote to close a meeting. Roll call votes must specify each member's individual vote on a matter. And you need to have a citation to the appropriate subsection of the statute, which is the 610.021 we just discussed with the 29 exceptions to open records and open meetings for going into a closed session. This city does follow that pretty closely and carefully, I think. If applicable, the good cause exception for holding a meeting on less than 24 hours notice, you need to state that in the meeting minutes and state why it was done that way. So a newer area of discussion under the Sunshine Law is, of course, electronic transmission and public records. And the statutes quoting them say that any record, whether it's written or electronically stored, retained by or of any public governmental body. That is defined as a public record. Something that's more interesting recently too to this body will be section 610.025, and I do have a typo down in that quote. I don't know which slide that is, but we're getting toward the end. It's the public records electronic transmission.
Slide 9, I think.
Slide 9, thank you. And the quote, it should say, instead of county in the next to the last line, it should be counting. So what the statute says is that any member of a public governmental body who transmits any message relating to public business by electronic means shall also concurrently transmit that message to either the member's public office computer or the custodian of records in the same format. The provisions of this section shall only apply to messages sent to 2 or more members of that body, so that when counting the sender, a majority of the body's members are copied. So this would come into play if you have committee members or Board of Aldermen members conducting things generally by text message. Don't advise that at all. You should not do so. But if you have 4 people involved in that conversation who are Board of Aldermen, who are members of a certain committee, now you've created a public record. And if you're going to do that and have those conversations, those text messages need to be sent to your public email and to the records custodian. So there has...
Can I ask you a question
Yeah.
here? I sent, when the new alderman first come on board, I kind of sent them a thing, like a text message to say, this is how we do Robert's rule, we do this and that kind of stuff. Where, so since I sent it to the new alderman, which was more than 3 for sure, then I should send that to my email.
Yeah. So, the main case that has addressed the text message issues is Sansoni versus Governor of Missouri. And this was in 2000, heard by the Missouri Court of Appeals in the Western District. This was filed by an individual against Eric Greitens. During the time, at least at the time things occurred, he was the governor of the state of Missouri. And the unfortunate thing here is that messages were being sent and received using Confide, which is an app that does not retain the messages. So I guess somewhat like Snapchat, where things disappear. As soon as they were read, the messages disappeared. So in one part, the court said, well, they aren't records that were maintained at the agency at the time of the records request. They may have existed at one time, but they weren't retained by the agency and they no longer exist. And they went through forensic phone experts and analyzed the data and tried to see if those messages could be recovered, and they were not capable of being recovered. So the court found, well, those weren't public records because he couldn't establish, the requester couldn't establish in his initial burden that those messages were public records subject to disclosure under the Sunshine Law. So, however, that same court put a footnote, as they like to do. Judges like to footnote things they don't like. And they said that it is not lost on this court that a public official's use of the Confide application has the practical effect of sidestepping the reach of Missouri Sunshine Law via ephemeral messaging applications that delete communications before any request for their disclosure can be made. And as Sansoni's counsel noted at the oral argument of this case, it may be time to update Missouri's Sunshine Law that was originally enacted in 1973, well before cellular phone technology existed, and likewise well before ephemeral messaging applications existed. So, but it's not within the power of the judicial branch of the government to create statutory law. That rests with the legislative branch. So until the legislative branch updates Missouri Sunshine Law to account for cellular phone technology and associated data, we cannot add words to the statute to accommodate this requester's legitimate concerns about the use of these messaging applications by public officials. Nor are they saying that they condone use of such applications by public officials. So, would not advise the governmental body to use such an application either, but just to be aware and know that text messages under certain circumstances could be subject to that. I will have to say, in looking and reviewing, I did not see that the legislature has taken them up on that challenge to make any update yet to the Sunshine Law. So, it's still in limbo a bit. The important thing to remember is if the message is sent to a quorum of public officials, which includes the sender in that quorum, and it relates to public business, it's a public record. So maintain it, send it to your public email, send it to your custodian of records. It's going to be very difficult for your custodian of records if they have to go around and start asking everybody, do you have text messages on this? Do you have text messages on this? That's too difficult. So common pitfalls. Obviously personal business conducted on personal devices or apps that we've already talked about, or something like WhatsApp, are subject to open records. It can be. Quorums cannot be created through private conversations among members to avoid the law. So you shouldn't go out of here and have a few of you start discussing things that really should be presented in an open meeting in this forum in an attempt to avoid the requirements of the Sunshine Law, because that doesn't work. There should be mandatory training for staff and adoption of a formal written policy. You're getting your mandatory training tonight. You've already got a formal written policy. Any votes taken during a closed meeting should be taken by roll call. 2 board members of a subcommittee may constitute a quorum, which may subject you to the sunshine law. So be aware of that. Some of your smaller committees only have a few members, so if you've got 2 board members talking who serve on a committee and you don't have many others, they could constitute a quorum. Also, be aware that continuing conversations about board meetings with other members, say on the way to your car after a meeting, would also be subject to the sunshine law. So that is discouraged, should not occur. Penalties and enforcement for violations of the sunshine law vary. Civil lawsuits can be brought by any citizen, county prosecutor, or the attorney general in the circuit court of the county within 1 year from when the violation is ascertainable, and in no event later than 2 years after the violation occurred. There are fines which differ by whether your violation was just knowing a violation, and that's up to $1,000 fine plus court costs and attorney's fees. If it is a purposeful violation, then that's up to $5,000 fines plus court costs and attorney's fees. There is injunctive relief available through a court to stop a certain practice or rectify a violation of the sunshine law, and courts can also avoid actions that have been taken by the Board of Aldermen or committees in violation of the sunshine law, if things were to get that far. So, best practices, kind of to wrap this up. Your best practices, I would recommend that you review and update the city ordinances annually in September. And I say September because when the legislature makes changes to our state statutes, those come out usually every year on the 28th of August. So if changes have been made, the statute's been updated by August 28th, and then the city can look at that and review and make any changes. So for instance, those 29 exceptions changed, and have changed several times since the law was enacted. So those are also mentioned, I believe, specifically in your city ordinances. So those need to be reviewed every year, I would say, at the 1st of September, just to see if there have been any changes made in the state statute. I do suggest probably one change to something we're doing after carefully reviewing all the sunshine law, and it's a minor administrative change. We should refer to public meetings as open or closed, just to avoid the confusion. The sunshine law does not refer to meetings as executive session, and I think we've just traditionally done that for a long, long time. But we should really refer to it as closed session instead of executive session. We need to bear in mind and remember that all public business must remain open unless it's specifically authorized to be closed. Each member of a public governmental body should have a government-issued email account for the conduct of their business as a public official. You want to keep things separate. If you use a personal email account, you could have some issues with that I'm sure that you don't want to encounter. And I've got a sentence. So, the Attorney General in 2017, which was Josh Hawley, issued an Attorney General opinion or policy note publicly stating that text messages about state business are public records under the Sunshine Law, comparable to emails, and that use of a personal device does not automatically exempt them. So also keep in mind that you shouldn't use official email servers or addresses for personal business, because if you do, whatever you discuss in your personal business is an open public record. And sometimes, I think as we've all seen in those cases that end up in the news, they're embarrassing disclosures that nobody wants there. So make sure you keep it separate. And just overall remember that if a message meets that those requirements of 610.025, the number of senders involved constituting a quorum, then you should forward those text messages to your government issued email and to your custodian of records for keeping. And I think that's That's all I have. I think we've pretty thoroughly covered the requirements of the Sunshine Law as it applies to this governmental body. And if you have any questions, I try to answer them, but I think that's pretty thorough.
You have any questions?
The only one I have is on the penalties and enforcement. It said fines, knowing violations up to $1,000. Do you mean by knowing, like, you knew you violated it?
Well, that you have to look to the statute specifically as to what the definition of knowing is.
That's a big burden.
Yeah, I mean, purposeful certainly is a higher level.
Yeah, I get purposeful, but knowing, that's a broad.
It is.
That's very broad.
It is. So basically, I think what some people would advise you is that if you're going to err, you err on the side of disclosure rather than not. And I can't put my finger right on the exact definition when I have so many lines of text in front of me.
No, that's okay. I'm saying, no, that's gonna be really hard
Yeah,
to prove.
it's,
Now,
that's a tough standard. You know, you wanna think, well, there's a difference in negligently disclosing. I mean, I made a mistake, didn't intend to, but I think that given the nature of public confidence, transparency, what the purpose of this law is, the courts are also going to err on finding those things to be a knowing violation.
Okay, if that's it, thank you. Thank you very much. We are now going to go into closed session. This is closed to the public pursuant to RSMO 610.021, Section 1 for legal advice and litigation.
I just need to say something to him for. I forgot. Where's the citation book? Okay. 10 o'clock in the minutes. Would that be okay?
Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
Just let me know.
10.
Need a motion? Second? Yes, a second. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, roll call.
Mayor Crockerman?
Yes.
Morgan? Ranieri?
Yes.
President?
Yes.